Hey everyone, this is Nareen's Life with MS. I am Nareen. So we are back home, and boy, was it an actual journey? Was it an actual effort to come back? Because pretty much, both of our flights were delayed, and one thing that also did happen was that uh, I left one wheelchair in Chicago, and as a result, my sister bought me a much better wheelchair, one that I can actually control myself. And in doing that, bringing it back was also a huge challenge because while back in the US, it is pretty common for people to travel with wheelchairs, for wheelchairs to be checked into luggage. That does not happen very often in India. So as a result, yeah, it was quite a bit of a practically a never-ending game over there. But with that being said, yes, I'm back, and this is the last day of Travel Diaries. Tomorrow, I will begin a very short series, which I will actually call the Travel Diaries Hangover, which will pretty much cover uh, some of the just looking at everything that happened over the course of these almost 4 weeks, um, and really look at it more with a critical lens as to you know um, what might have been some of the issues that were happening. While I loved every single second of the trip, um, except for the last part when I was coming back, and it took, instead of 21 hours, 28 hours. Um, Instead of that, except for that, I think there was no second where I felt like, if I removed it, you know, um, the trip would have meant that much. So as a result, I do want to say that this was probably one of the best US trips I've had. There was just so much fun. There was quite a bit of dancing. I also did a little bit of dancing, and um, just family, friends, love all around. Of course, my sister getting married, which was huge. Getting to watch my first Broadway play, and it turns out to be like just a masterpiece. um, so there are so many great things, but now let's flip over the script and see what were certain things that um, I could have prepared better. And being a person with MS, what are certain things that I want to point out during my trip, which might have helped me maybe be better, perform better. Because one thing that definitely happened was, especially in the colder cities, that being New York, Chicago, and of course Boston, my legs, especially my left leg, felt practically like a peg leg. I was pretty much, I had little to no control over it as well. I was pretty much, swinging my hip, um, clockwise to pretty much move my left leg forward, while my right leg and foot and knee were working fine. Apart from that, there were quite a few other issues that I can definitely get into more, but I think I want to leave it for the for the for the travel Hangover Diaries, instead of the Travel Diaries series. So that is going to be there. Now I am actually thinking. So my first thought was that I keep the Hangover Diaries only about 2 sessions long, and then go back to my regular scheduled programming, if you want to call it, regular scheduled programming, starting Monday. But I think one thing, just thinking about all of the different things that could have gone on, and all of the precautions I could have taken, all of the things that I could have said and done, all of the things that warrant a little more analysis, a little more about stopping and thinking, and maybe doing things a little differently. I feel like I can probably stretch it to at least a week and 2 days, so have 9 episodes of the Travel Hangover Diaries. And then after that, once we hit Monday, the 10th of November, we will go back to our regular stuff. And even that will have small changes, because I did realize that certain themes weren't really fitting in. So as a result, uh, there are going to be slightly different, there one or two, or maybe even three, um, episodes are going to change. So that is going to be up, starting tomorrow. Of course, after this video, as was customary when I was showing Travel Diaries, I will definitely share with you the cute little thumbnails I have made for the Travel Hangover Diaries as well. So be on the lookout for that. I hope you do have an interesting time with or have had an interesting time with the Travel Diaries. I know it was slightly different, and I'm one that, considering that I look at this as almost like a journaling thing, as a 20-minute thing. I honestly do not normally have the time to go back and pretty much rewatch everything. Once I create it, it's done, it's on YouTube. So as a result, if there are any issues that have happened, I know that I think my last video of like returning to New York from Boston, I know it had quite a few things where I was pausing for very long, not doing a lot of things, and apart from that, I don't think the sound matched up with the videos. So there are quite a few issues that went on over there. But even with that being said, um, you know Travel Diaries is over and done with, at least until there is going to be at least another, I said at least too many times, um, there is going to be another um, you know long travel. And by long travel, I and honestly evaluating that this was maybe too long a travel. Anything that goes over 10 mark would be considered long travel, at least in my books. So every time that happens, I'm pretty sure I will dust off the Travel Diaries cover, use those. But as of now, there is going to be a new cover for the Diaries Hangover, and then of course after that we go back to the regular stuff that hopefully you know you've missed over the past 3.5 weeks. So with that being said, thank you so much for joining in. Please give some feedback, some comments on what are certain things that you might want to see me cover during the Travel Hangover Diaries, because one thing that I do know is there are quite a few things that are running in my head, but there are always better topics, and your inputs and your insights would definitely help me make content that is maybe more suitable, more relatable, and of course content that you might get a laugh out of one day or another, right? Because there my I always try to keep my channel upbeat. There were certain there were certain episodes, I think day 50, the first the first draft of me talking, I think I had capped it at 34 minutes, and honestly it was taking so long to render that video that I just said, okay, I'm going to record a much shorter video. And even that was, I felt, twice as long as it needed to be. So um, you know your insights, your inputs, your comments are always very helpful in me pretty much navigating, not only sharing my story with you on YouTube, but also with me also being able to understand and comprehend what's going on, sometimes even put certain pieces together while I am talking. And because all of this is ad lib, I don't record anything. I honestly just think about this maybe for 5 minutes. Sometimes it goes, and sometimes if it's a slightly boring day, maybe goes to 10-15 minutes, but it does not exceed that amount of time. So as a result of all of those, um, if you do think of anything that can you know make my content a little more suitable, a little better for everyone else, that would be great. And another thing that I did want to talk about was the fact that because this is going to be an evolving channel, there are going to be a lot of things that we are going to discuss, there are going to be a lot of things that are going to over time just change, over time grow, over time just uh, evolve. And as a result, I do foresee that, considering December is very very close, it's about 4 weeks away, and um, the new year comes right after, there are going to be certain changes, and I hope these changes are definitely positive and do incite more responses and more comments from you. As always, this is Nareen Saib with MS. I am Nareen. I hope you enjoyed the Travel Diaries series, and get ready for the Travel Hangover Diaries, and that is going to start tomorrow. And so with that, I'm just going to flash over to what the new um, what the new title cards look like. So hope you enjoy them. Bye.